One of the first games I can remember playing on my Xbox 360 was the Crystal Dynamics Tomb Raider game. I remember it fondly, was deeply impacted by the maturity of it all, and have carried that love for her character for years, even after the next two games in that trilogy didn't quite capture those same heights. Netflix's Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft attempts to connect those games with the original ones, making them all one big universe in that regard. Regardless though, I'm going to try and break down this episode on its own, apart from the games for now, to answer the question of, did Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft start out well? Well, the episode begins with a woman running from someone shooting arrows her way. We see them approach as she is barely able to hide. After they say she may have went another direction, instead of smartly waiting for them to leave or taking in any of her surroundings, she immediately starts to walk and steps on a branch, alerting them of her presence. Although she showed skill in her escape as she was running away, her actions after contradicted that, leaving her character immediately in a position where I can't tell if she's intelligent or not, which isn't a good way to start your character's, characterization. She gets to some markings on a wall, pauses to take them in, with what she learned from it, if anything, being left up in the air as she's attacked yet again. She dodges attacks without issue, hinting at possible prior combat experience, before leaping over a gap, using her knife as an anchor to climb up the other side. This was a risky maneuver, but it was one that her pursuers weren't willing to attempt, making it the perfect way to put distance between them, even though the show has seemingly forgot about the arrows that were already established to exist earlier that are not put to use or even seen within this scene. After looking at what is either a map or a layout of the fortress before her, she begins to climb, demonstrating the upper body strength showcased as she climbed up earlier, as well as her recklessness, given she literally has a rope and doesn't use it to ensure her safety in the slightest, possibly demonstrating the time limit she's up against given the perseverance of her pursuers, but it could also be a character flaw as well, or a way to showcase her skill. I guess we'll see as the series goes on. We get a transition that I really like, as she leaves the cover of, leaves, and we see what appears to be a temple on the other side. I first saw this kind of transition in the Curious George movie when I was a kid, so it holds a special place in my heart, and I am glad to see it used again in a similar setting here. The woman calls it House of the Jaguar, surprised by it being real, as she alerts a man named Roth. He says that he's on his way, and that he's proud of her, giving a name to her face, Lara. She goes into a cave, giddy with excitement, and sits on a ledge that breaks and almost sends her straight into a spike pit, a move she calls classic, showcasing that she's seen it before, many times, but does draw into question why she wouldn't have tested the strength of the ledge before sitting on it if she has experience with these travels, a move she demonstrates right after, as she tests the strength of a tattered bridge, and it breaks beneath her weight, separating it from an implied past and basing it off what we now know of her character's actions in episode. This is a direct development from how she handled the scene before, a learn from mistakes kind of moment. She cleverly uses her rope to get to the other side, using it as a bridge instead of the bridge itself, showcasing some problem-solving skills as well as athleticism that would be required to think up and then act on such an idea. Once she lands on the other side, she falls through the floor in a way that couldn't have really been avoided this time, so it's not a demerit on her. It is starting to become rather boring though, since she has fallen multiple times in the first 3 minutes of this episode, and it's no longer tense or surprising in the slightest. Hopefully not a sign of what's to come in terms of the writing. Landing in the water below, she dodges debris as she makes her way out, going by a marking on the wall of what appears to be an alligator, as a similar creature silhouette is seen following her. Some very in-your-face foreshadowing here. I think it would have benefited from choosing one or the other, with my personal preference being the drawing on the wall to demonstrate the threat, like a beware of dog sign if you will. She looks behind her and doggone it, the ghastly gator's eyes glow green as it stares down its prey. She's able to miraculously continuously outrun it and get to land, but it grabs her leg and pulls her back under, not before she gets a stab in on it first. She's not going down without a fight. We don't get to see what happens, but Lara comes out and walks into the temple, and the animal's corpse floats back to the top. It feels kinda cheap given she has no other wounds besides the one inflicted within our sightline, and the animal was showcased to be a threat, and yet was taken out in a matter of seconds without any of its blood to be seen. This scares me a little bit. Major problems being solved off screen is not a very good way to format a story. It also leaves her capabilities up in the air, since we don't know how she was able to defeat the beast and sustain no injuries under the water. It makes the tension of future encounters like this feel all but moot, establishing a precedent that even without logic, Lara will come out on top, and a laziness of them not caring to even try to make such a thing believable. For the sake of getting on with the episode though, I'll headcanon that the stab wound to the head was fatal, and that the body of the animal was just lashing out before it eventually shut down. Once she enters into the main room of the temple, she does a cute little twirl and states that she wishes her dad was here to see this, probably hinting at him having some love for history or historical landmarks such as this one, and that why he isn't here could be an inability or worst case scenario because of his death, which the latter would help expand on why Roth saying he was proud of her meant so much to her, as well as lay a foundation for their relationship to be expanded upon in the future. She says the box looks Chinese, makes sure to call it strange, probably due to the Chinese not really being prominent wherever this location is. Given the men earlier were speaking Spanish, her pursuers, that adds validity to that assumption. She turns around to see Roth, rushing to give him a hug, showing how important they are to one another as he yet again congratulates her. Lara says everyone thought her father was crazy to think the people that this box belonged to went that far south, but this proves that he was right, as Roth gives them a name and them both a last name, as he refers to her father as Richard Croft with the statement,
"Richard Croft was always right, just like you."
The usage of was furthering the idea that for some reason or another, Lara's father had passed away, and Roth's faith and familiarity with him, as well as his actions in regards to Lara thus far, make it more than possible that Roth has stepped in as a father figure in Lara's life. Lara says the legend is that the box will make any man who touches it wealthy instantaneously, with Roth going up to grab it in a joking way, showing he isn't one to believe in the superstitious. Lara says the box was built around 900 BC, 2,000 years before Machu Picchu, as she looks at engravings that seem to showcase a harrowing fire and a lot of death. As Roth inspects the box, Lara looks at more engravings on the walls, coming to the conclusion that maybe they shouldn't take it after all. Roth goes against that notion, confirming he isn't a believer in legends or superstition, saying he contributes her beliefs to ones like her father once had. Roth yet again gives Lara credit, saying she finished an adventure her father had started and that he would have been very proud of her, making it seem as if Roth is only here for her, to back her up and help her move on by finishing what her father had started, yet again saying that he's proud. They joke about what normal people do in Chile before Lara is surprised by a gun to her head. If these goofballs had guns, why didn't they use them before? Why were they using arrows? What happened to those arrows? So many questions regarding our first antagonist of the series, all brought upon by inconsistency instead of good writing. The men offer them an ultimatum: leave the box or die. They say the box will only lead to death and destruction, seeming to be trying to prevent what the story on the wall makes out to have happened in the past. But that isn't confirmed here, just an interpretation of the situation. Lara sees their attackers as protectors, but Roth sees them as a threat that are after their treasure, which technically both can be right, but the look in Roth's eyes already tell how this is gonna end. One of the men hit Roth with a pistol, which is the dumbest thing I've seen so far, especially since there are men with actual melee weapons right there. Why would the guy with a ranged weapon charge in and use it as a blunt instrument? I think I just lost brain cells given the countless countless ways that one action could have gotten all of his allies killed. Roth could have disarmed him and taken the gun, used him as a human shield, taken out the other gun-armed assailants, the list goes on. Instead, he bashes the box off the man's face, throwing it to Lara as the two fight to take the men down. The fight is visually rather good, not up to par with a series such as Castlevania, but given the wildly different setting and world, I don't believe that's necessarily a bad thing. Regardless, Lara gets surprised by the main guy and held at gunpoint. Roth tells her to close her eyes and shoots the man dead. Given the well-placed headshot, the hand-to-hand combat showcased before that, and his lack of fear while looking danger in the eye, is most likely a sign of previous combat experience, ex-military, or something more shady, leaving it open for us to find out. He tells Lara that it was either her or the attacker, and when that is the choice, she better survive, making her agree as we are greeted with a title card. Fast forward, we see Lara fighting during some kind of festival, struggling against her opponent and even being taken to the ground. In order to squeeze out a victory, she charges the woman, knocking her to the ground and pounding, beating her without control, with flashbacks of a fire and a gun, possibly past trauma that she has yet to overcome. She gets a call from a man named Jonah, someone she's familiar with, or at least someone she considers a friend. Jonah says that Lara said she'd come spend Christmas with him and Abby, his significant other, possibly his wife. He gives exposition to fill in the blanks of what happened, saying that Roth is dead, and telling us that Lara is really beating herself up about it, which was literally shown earlier as she was fighting, with her win coming more as a need to survive than as a want to overcome, demonstrated by the PTSD that took over her reality as she threw punches with no regard for the world around her. Jonah says he isn't expecting her to be the person she was before whatever caused the death of Roth, but for her to build into who she can become after it, instead of running from the pain, letting her friends help her as he is hugged by his girl, and we see a man in the background that is apparently her friend as well. Lara says she can't, with hesitation before hanging up, unsure of the decision that she just made. The woman she defeated questions on if she is okay. Lara deflects that question, showing a do-it-myself and let nobody in type of personality that is distinct from the one we saw as she worked alongside Roth, helping further the idea that she has drastically changed due to drastic circumstances. She questions the woman on what is happening in front of her, with the woman calling it a Pachamama ceremony, burning away the past, her husband's things, as she finds who she is without him. With newfound fire in her eyes, Lara opens the door to a mansion, sighing inside. We see her move items all in one place, most likely to burn them all and start anew, foreshadowed by the scene we saw beforehand. She sees the treasure her and Roth found at the beginning, as well as a picture with Roth, Jonah, and others we don't know. Well, unless we played the Crystal Dynamics games, but we are judging this on its own, so we focus in on Roth, the character we have the most development with, even if that only equates to a possible 4 minutes on screen so far. She remembers a moment where Roth encouraged her as she doubts whether that encouragement was something she deserved. She then remembers a hatchet seemingly hitting Roth, with a woman blaming her for his death and for the outcome of the journey that they were on. Jonah and the man in the background from earlier interrupt her painful reminiscing, one joking about the dust and his allergies, cementing him as possible comic relief, as the other calls her little bird in a serious tone, adding to the mentor-like role he has started to take up. Lara questions why they are there, giving a name to funny man over here, calling him Zip. Zip says she triggered the alarm, saying he wired the place up to help watch it while she was gone. She calls it her father's house, but since he's a fan of moving from the past into the present, Jonah corrects it as hers, keeping with the idea he has previously displayed and showing how serious he is about helping her overcome the ghosts of her past. Lara says she's burning it all to the ground, with Zip clarifying that she means an auction, and the two offering to help so that she can move on, with him asking for pizza in return. Comic relief is definitely his main thing. The two wish her well in their own way, offer to stay and then be on their way. Lara wonders about someone named Sam, who she expected to show up, with with Jonah covering for Sam while also making sure Lara knows that she's capable of getting into contact with Sam as well. It takes two. During a dream, we see what happened that resulted in Roth's death. He took a hatchet in order to save Lara from the same fate, while gunning enemies down in the process. Sam, who we now can add a face to the name, checks on Lara, triggering another person from the picture named Reyes, who I hated as I played the first game, and have no reason to change that opinion on now. The dream changes from reality to Lara's perception of it, as all her friends suddenly turn against her, and blood, representing Ross, is on her hands. Doing a good job showcasing Lara's psyche as a result of those events, why she has isolated herself from her friends, and is struggling to keep in contact with the others from that trip, which is why Jonah was the one that called her, and why her and Sam are now so distant. Dream Sam says she'll get them all killed, a possible fear held by Lara, also explaining the distance she keeps from them. Lara then jumps us into the next scene with her cries in the background. Now it's auction time. People are talking all sorts of smack about situations that they know nothing about, the normality of the wealthy elite. Someone who appears to be an auctioneer, given the respect he has when addressing Lara and how that differs from what we've heard from everyone else, wonders where she is. Zip realizes she's drinking and gambling, so in order to protect her image from someone that seems to genuinely have a good reception of her, he tells the man to wait here and goes to intervene. We see Lara getting along well with the staff, instead of the rich folk here for her stuff, which shows the disconnect she has between the high society and the common people, showcasing she values people for who they are, instead of the importance that they are assigned. Clarified whenever one of the staff, a female member, comments on her dress and she responds kindly if not a little drunkly. The man says the museum is eternally grateful for her donation, complimenting Conrad Roth as a god amongst men, which seems to be extremely random, but it was possibly a way to honor her loss as well as his contribution to the items that will be seen here today. It also shows that Lara is not intending on making money from most of these items, if not all of them, given the terminology used whenever he called it a donation. Lara and Zip walk to the start of the auction, but see a picture of Roth that makes Lara start to feel sick. Zip tries to calm her down with words, but given her drinking just a moment ago, decides alcohol might do the trick and leaves to get some. A man looking at her photo as a possible guide approaches her and says that nobody understands, that this isn't charity, her giving things away, instead it's a bullet to the brain to try and make it all stop. He says that they probably want her to move on, to let go, but family doesn't leave us. It's what makes them different, what drives them, showing a deeper understanding with Lara than even those that survived the encounter alongside her, raising the question of who is this man, what has he went through, and what side is he truly on. Lara rushes away yet reminisces of growing up with Roth as her guardian, a past I considered as a possibility earlier, which has now become confirmed. She remembers saying that Roth will always be there to catch her, which makes the fact that he no longer is sting even more. She sees someone breaking into her mansion, going after them, rappelling down and cutting off their escape as it's revealed they are stealing the green box. An action scene occurs where she fights similarly to Trevor Belmont, and even though I'm trying to separate the show from the games, I have to bring up how silly this is. In absolutely none of the Crystal Dynamics games do we use a weapon similar to this one in a combat capacity such as this. She has had no prior experience fighting this way, and although this can be seen as now setting the precedent that she can fight in this regard, it brings prior action scenes into question. If she's this mobile, this limber, this this well coordinated, then she shouldn't have had a problem in that one-on-one fight earlier. Not to the point that she'd be as injured as she was. She's flying around here like a ninja instead of a survivor, like her life was meant to fight and not to seek out treasure. It's extremely hard to take seriously, and if she is never seen fighting with this amount of skill again after today, it will cause far more harm than good. The animation and choreography in this scene is good. Not Castlevania good, but good in its own way. Although it does feel like a couple moments drag too long without actual physical interaction happening, that is more personal preference on my part than anything else. She chases the thief outside, yells for assistance that never comes, before stealing a vehicle and making MCU-esque quips that would not happen given the sentimental value attached to that artifact, and pursuing the guy after asking for Zip to navigate her in the right direction due to a tracker placed on the treasure. Zip gives her advice. She doesn't take it, which actually is a regression for her character since she did ask for help, so it's a bit silly that she wouldn't showcase an ounce of faith in him here, especially since when it was up to her earlier, she took the safer and smarter route instead. She catches up to the boat, but it's too late. We see the identity of the thief in a way that makes no logical sense, since he wouldn't have needed to wear the helmet to begin with if he was going to reveal who he was anyway. Plus, he changed his clothes within seconds at the party earlier just to give us this dramatic scene. It's stupid, honestly, and even though someone might get a kick out of it, I did not. Especially since it was basically spoon-fed to us during his conversation with her that in some way he was going to have substantial involvement in the story, and they ruined the mystery of what that is just a few minutes later. Wouldn't have done it this way myself, but this isn't a rewrite, so I'll move on. If you want me to rewrite it though, let me know. Later that day, Zip and Lara discussed a lack of power in the house due to bills not being paid, as they try to figure out why this artifact in particular was taken. Haha, funny ghost humor happens, alongside saying what we already know, and then Lara ends up in another room in the mansion, where this photo possibly showcases the relationship between Roth and her father in a blink and you'll miss it moment. We learn that the box has been called both the gift and curse of God, as Jonah questions Zip on how Lara is doing, and Zip admits that she only lies in regards to that. He's not as clueless as he's made out to be. Lara finds out a sister box exists in China, that Roth and her dad were going to find it, even though that seems to go against Roth saying she completed her dad's quest at the beginning, but since he didn't say last quest, I guess it's up to interpretation. Jonah calls the box a stuffy trinket, which seems rather dumb of him to do, given his character exists mostly to understand how Lara feels, as well as to raise her a reality that takes those feelings into consideration. Here though, he seems desperate, uncaring, and it is a total shift from the person he has been characterized as up to this point, as he completely ignored the sentimental value that the box has. Even if somehow he wasn't aware of the trip, which makes no sense, but even if he wasn't, then it would still be represented by being one of the few artifacts that were not up for auction. So his absolute obliviousness here is stupid in every regard. Jonah says his wedding is in a few weeks and he needs her before she cuts him off, angry about him belittling the importance of the box, which he never acknowledges doing, and instead gets even angrier with her. I mean, he has every right to think about his wedding, but the shift in attitude was totally uncalled for. His attitude during the phone call was supportive, and due to that, guess what? She made it home. He was supportive about the auction, and then it happened. It's unreasonable to drop that support and then expect a positive outcome to come from it, both logically as part of what what the writing has shown, and logically in terms of how he is characterized, as well as logically in how this would actually work in real life. Zip gives her the thief's location, Lara says she doesn't need Jonah's help, he says they all need help, and then she leaves alone, which, since he didn't offer help, makes the whole spiel a bit out of place, but it does highlight that Jonah may have been trying to ask her for help for once, but they had to change how he interacts in order to prevent that from happening. Nice. Jonah yet again reiterates Lara's change, which is ironic given his attitude shift this whole scene before lightning strikes the house in a supernatural way. Jonah takes off without saying where he is going, as we see the group picture yet again, foreshadowing him probably heading to help out Lara in some regard, which he would have been characterized to have offered to do without the conflict, but it's whatever I suppose. Unnecessary, but not too damaging unless it's a common theme for characters to lash out without reason, because better build-up could have actually made that attitude shift work here. It's not that he has to act the same the entire series, that would be silly. He just has to act within reason for his character. There was no reason behind his actions, yet unless again they bring up in the future he needs help for his wedding, and it was an immediate concern at that very moment that took precedent over everything else. Zep gets left to put out the fire and fix things up, and we see the antagonist on a boat in the next scene. He picks up a green stone from inside the box, causing him what seems like immense pain, or some kind of internal turmoil at the very least. Using the gem, he commands a deckhand to kill his captain. Realizing it's about to happen, he stops it before the deed is done, with visible worry on his face, showing that he isn't entirely okay with senseless death, which, mixed with his possible traumatic past, makes him a really compelling villain. The episode ends with him saying that chaos is coming as a storm roars above him. So did Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft start out well? Well, kind of. As a show by itself, it does a decent job building up who these characters are in some regard. We have an idea of who Jonah is, we have an idea of who Lara is, we have an idea of what she's going through, but they're all just ideas. And as is represented with the scene with Jonah, they are willing to skirt those ideas even at the detriment of the characters or the story, just to push things forward, especially conflict. We spend the first scene getting to know who Lara was while Roth was alive, so after he passes, we get to see a change in her, which is kind of the whole point of the show so far. That change, how to overcome it, that's the kind of stuff we can be expected to see. They set those themes up at the beginning rather well, but I don't think they cement them as well as they could have. I think the action scenes, although yes, well animated for the most part, also bring up certain questions that they now need to tackle in the future, like why Lara has ninja abilities now, when before combat didn't really seem to be her expertise. Sure, she could fight, but it was more of fighting to survive instead of fighting because she has actual training and prowess behind it. But now she can pick up a freaking rope or grappling hook or whatever the heck she used. I don't even remember what it was. I'm having a brain fart. Should have scripted this part out. But she can pick that up and she can use it as if she's freaking Trevor Belmont, who was characterized to have that training due to the legacy and the name of his family. So it makes sense for Belmont to use that weapon, but for Lara Croft to do so, it makes no sense at all. And if they do not address this during this season, then it is legitimately a plot hole that makes no sense. And if she does not use these abilities in a similar fashion again throughout this season, then there was no reason to set a foundation that she has the abilities to begin with. Now if she ever gets into a fight and she's not using freaking ninja tactics, I'm going to be really concerned on why she's letting herself lose, because it has already been cemented that she has the ability to do something like this. Editing Trevor here, I just finished the entire series. She never uses a weapon in this regard again. Who would have freaking thought? So, no, it did not start well, because the foundation that has been laid here gets dug back up and tossed around and completely abandoned at points. I don't even know what they were going for. They screwed up so much, so fast. As a first episode, yes, it started well in terms of getting me freaking captivated, getting me engrossed and getting me to watch the next episode. In that way, yes, it did a good job, and I'll give it credit for that. It was a good first episode as a first episode, apart from the rest of the series and apart from the games, setting it apart from everything that comes before and after. Haha, yes, it's good. But if you lined it up with everything else, it is not a good episode, and I hate that. If I had this video done faster and frickin' Netflix wasn't terrible with copyright, this edit wouldn't have happened, and this would have been more positive, but here we are. No, it did not start out well. And if you want me to, I will actually break down the whole series, but that has to be demonstrated in comments and likes and views. If I'm not getting views, comments, and likes, and it seems like there's no engagement on the video, to be completely honest with you, I'm probably not going to really prioritize continuing it. Right now, I just gotta do what I gotta do in order to do this YouTube algorithm thing. So I need you to at least put in a little bit of effort here to showcase that this is what you want to see. But if you don't want me to do that, then I guess don't comment that you want me to do it. Don't like the future videos if people do comment on this one that they want me to make more. Don't watch the next video I put out of Tomb Raider, and then I'll get it. I'll catch on. But I figured I should put that down here because these are really hard videos to make. They take a lot of time, and I don't want to go out of my way and break down episodes if nobody's gonna watch it, you know? Anyway, sorry it got really negative at the end here, and it wasn't too positive throughout. I tried to be courteous during this review, during this breakdown when I originally watched this episode, and I tried to be courteous during my full series review, but the more I think about it, the angrier it makes me because there's just so much missed potential, so many issues with the writing, and I don't know, I might actually just rewatch this and rewrite it. I might rewrite this episode. Let me know if you want to see that too. Who knows? Who knows? Just let me know what you want me to do. Got any ideas of future shows you want me to do the first episode of, or the series of, or a certain episode of? Just let me know. I am open for suggestions. But man, I'm burnt out after this one. So if you made it this far, thank you so much. You mean the absolute world. Comment down below Larry Croft because I find that hilarious. It doesn't matter how I feel about it in relation to this show, but I find the freaking name Larry Croft to be funny. It reminds me of Impractical Joker. So comment that down below. Get into arguments. I don't freaking care. Just be respectful at least. But for more news, reviews, and whatever we choose, stay tuned to Nerdsfeed. Have a great day. Thank you.